Howdy, folks. It is Thursday, March 27th, and welcome to another episode of TASB Talks, the podcast bringing you the latest happenings and insights into Texas public education. I'm your host, Matt Mitchell. I'm joined once again by Docs Gonzalez, Division Director of TASB Governmental Relations. And Docs, we are a little over halfway through the session at this point, if you can believe that.
Yeah, that's right, Matt. It just happened all of a sudden. Earlier this week was the 70th day of the legislative session, which marks the halfway point of the 140 session long or day long session. And so we are officially on that other end of it. And I'd like to say it's all downhill from here, but really this is where the work is beginning to start. We've talked about in the past couple of podcasts that the House has really started picking up its pace and hearing bills and moving those forward. And, we're hearing that calendars are starting to be set for hearing some of those bills that have come out of committee. So it's going to get really busy here as the House is hearing bills on the floor and the Senate continues to hear bills, and those bills start crossing over back and forth. And that pace will continue to accelerate until we get to the end of session.
You hear that, folks? If you are really into this stuff, and if you're watching this, I'm assuming you are, things are about to get really good. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, we're getting there.
But on that note, kind of wanted to, I believe we did this maybe a couple episodes ago, kind of another sort of a state of the legislature. I figured halfway point's probably a good time to do that. So let's kind of walk through some important things that have maybe happened this week, happened last couple of weeks, and kind of what we can expect in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest things is the deadline to file new bills passed on March 14th, and that is always an exciting time because it at least gives you a universe of legislation that you now know that you're working with, and so you're not waiting for new bills to be filed. Those bills can always be amended, but you generally have a good idea now of what is out there, and so that's nice, especially when you're trying. Here at TASB, we track 2,000 or 3,000 bills every session, and I'm not even sure. I think we're close to 3 already this session, and it's nice to be able to focus on the bills that you've finally pegged as we need to track these without worrying about new bills coming in and having to dissect those and figure out whether they affect public schools or not. Because as you know, it's not just education issues that impact schools, but it's construction issues and pest control issues and contractual issues that all affect public schools. So there are just a lot of bills. And, when early filing happened back before the session started, there was a huge influx of bills, more than people had seen in a long time. And so it led a lot of folks, including us, to believe that there were going to be, 10, 11, 12,000 bills filed this session. And now that the bill filing deadline is over, we can see what that number is. And it's about 8,600 bills that have been filed. So a lot fewer than what we thought coming into it. And both the House and the Senate increased the amount of bills that they filed this session. The Senate a little bit more. They filed, I think, 600 extra bills compared to the last session, which I think total was about 8,000 bills. So I think the Senate's actually responsible for maybe 400 of those, and the House for 200. But so definitely an increase in bills, but not that crazy surge we thought we were going to see after pre-filing. Like I mentioned, the House has they're up and running and considering a lot of bills coming through. They've heard some pretty big legislation, especially the public schools. They heard House Bill 2, House Bill 3 have both been heard, and those are the respectively the school finance bill and the education savings account voucher bill that Representative Brad Buckley has filed. And as we expected, a lot of testimony on those bills, going well into the next day sometimes. So I'm sure you saw that we call them the big three: the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the Speaker of the House had a press conference yesterday, and today is Thursday. I believe. I actually know what day it is today, Matt. I know I come in here and I never know what day it is.
That's great. Your brain's not too fried. That's great.
In fact, I believe it's March 27th today.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
So yesterday, the big three came together and they held a press conference to talk about the possibly coming vote on House Bill 3 in committee next week at some point, and which would you would think be Tuesday, because Tuesday is when the House Public Education Committee meets, and talking about how they look forward to that vote happening, and then that bill getting to the floor, and then having a vote there, and so we can assume that House Bill 2 will be in that same universe. So next week will be a big week for bills coming out. Now, remember, folks, this won't be there won't be any testimony on these bills again in that committee. This bill will likely be considered by the members, and then they will vote on it and move it forward. So so it won't be that 12 hours of testimony or 14 hours of testimony. There may be some questions by the members on there, but they'll be voting on it one way or another, and it will advance or not.
Now, once these bills pass through committee, do you expect the pace of how these bills are moving to change at all, or what can we expect once it gets past that critical point next week?
These two particular bills?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that they necessarily are holding up the process any more than they are. They sure are kind of sucking up a lot of the oxygen in the room right now, but those staffers down there are working really hard to manage a lot of different issues at the same time. So while there are some dedicated to these bills specifically, there are still plenty of other bills working through the process in House Public Education and other committees. So I don't know that this will necessarily speed up the pace of other bills, but it does kind of clear off one thing to allow for more capacity to handle other issues. So.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously working very hard on this, and I guess really I'm just trying to keep track of when everything's going to happen, kind of fast and furious. The last couple months we're doing this, but obviously, yeah, they're working very hard on this. It takes a lot to get these through, and
I don't know that it's a procrastination issue, but I know that as we start getting near to deadlines, that's when you start seeing activity really pick up. So when we start getting closer to the last day to hear House bills in the House on second reading, which happens in May, you will see a huge surge in activity trying to get bills out of calendars, out of committees, out of calendars, onto the floor and discussed and off and over to the Senate. And then there's another deadline to the last day to hear Senate bills on second reading in the House. And so before each of those deadlines, you'll see a big flurry of activity, especially on the night where that happens. But it seems like we've hit a pretty good pace. There's a lot of legislation spread out across a lot of committees that we're following, but they are moving. Things. This session is not uncommon yet, so things are moving kind of as they have been in previous sessions.
Knock on wood.
Well, having been at TASB for 19 years now, it's nice to see something different every now and then. So a little bit of variety.
Well, then maybe I'll take that back. Who knows? But so you mentioned House Bill 3 and how they expect a vote on that next week, and you also mentioned House Bill 2. Mm-hmm. Again, that's Chair Buckley's school finance bill. Is there any new information you can share about that bill?
We have not seen the committee substitutes for either bill, so we imagine that maybe we'll get to see one around the time that it's introduced. But they're still working on getting it to be an agreeable bill, because they've got to get, first of all, a majority of the committee to pass it, so to agree on some kind of bill to pass it. And then you've got to find 77 House members to pass it off the floor. So there's a lot of negotiating going on right now, a lot of tweaking it to pick up votes and not lose too many other votes. And so it'll be interesting. In that, I should say, the governor has said that there are enough votes to pass this bill, and I think at one point there were 77 sponsors of the bill, which is enough to get it passed. But that was a while back that we heard that, so we don't know if those people are still there. There's been a lot of chatter on social media and during those hearings regarding opposition to the bill and support for the bill, but I could see it making it a little bit more difficult for some folks who thought it was going to be an easier passage to getting it through.
Well, we will certainly keep our eyes and ears open for that in the coming weeks. And I guess kind of to pivot away from specifically the legislature now, we'll obviously keep our eyes and ears on that. But pivoting away from that, you have been a little busy this week with our TASB Spring Workshop sessions. For those of you who don't know, well, I guess I'll let you. You were there. You were in McAllen.
Yeah.
I'll let you explain.
It's always great to be home. I'm from McAllen originally, and it's good to get to go down there and see the trustees from Region 1. And as I believe this was the first TASB Spring Workshop held there at McAllen ISD, and there was a good turnout there. Had a good number of trustees and a couple of administrators there to learn about the legislature. We had a legislative update, but they also learned about policy from one of our policy consultants. Shout out to Brooke Stroud, and we had Jacob giving some really good advocacy, how to get your community involved with your district, pointers to those folks. So it was a good turnout. It was fun to be down there.
And out of the 17 sessions we have near us, I'm sure I'll be able to find time to go to one of them.
You really should. It's really an opportunity to get down into the local communities that we don't always get to see in our larger meetings that happen like in Dallas or Houston or San Antonio. So it is nice to get where the folks are and meet with them there.
So we've talked about the weeks ahead. Now let's kind of go back a little bit and talk about this week in particular. There were several school discipline bills that were up. So why don't you kind of walk us through those?
Yeah, so House Bill 6 by Chairman Leach in the House and Senate Bill 245 by Senator Perry in the Senate are both two kind of omnibus discipline bills that really focus on, at least the stated intent is to provide more flexibility to districts to allow them to manage behavioral issues that are happening back in their campuses. And so the bills do a lot of things, really, and I'm not going to go into all of them, but generally some things in there are maybe increasing the time of in-school suspension to allow districts to perhaps determine if someone is a threat and something needs to be done in excess of that, or if they can return back to the classroom. I know the Senate bill has some provisions in there to require the teacher to work with campus administration before a child is allowed back into a class if the child is if there's persistent behavior that is disrupting the class, and just ways. Both bills have different provisions for helping campus administrators and educators deal with kids who may be harmed to themselves or to others on that campus, and try to make sure that they're getting the help they need and make sure that everyone else is kept safe on the campus to prevent incidents. Because there have been a lot of incidents in the news lately of educators and students being injured at school, and so schools for school leaders really for the past few years have been asking for more flexibility to deal with this. And I know when we went out for our grassroots meetings last year that helps develop our advocacy agenda, one of the top issues was student discipline, and a lot of trustees were telling us that they were hearing from their teachers that that student discipline was becoming more of an issue than teacher pay in terms of possibly wanting to leave the profession. So it definitely is an issue, and you know, no bill is ever completely perfect, and we're working with both authors to try to make sure that it balances, you know, the needs of the parents, the kids, and the local school districts. So there's still a lot of work to be done on those bills, but you know, I think that it is very apparent that the legislature is ready to help districts in this regard, and so we're ready to help them.
The work never stops, that's for sure. Yeah. We got one half of a session down. We got one more half to go, and we will be with you every step of the way, and you will be here every step of the way. And by that, I mean, again, probably every other week is what we're kind of going for there. And I'll see you next time on this podcast. Thanks as always for coming on.
It's always a pleasure, Matt.
And we'll see you, the listeners and watchers, next time. You can find us at TASB News on YouTube for those watching. And for those listening, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. So thanks again, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see y'all next time.